Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside of their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
First Responder Financial Freedom podcast number 19. We're with Adam Forstner. Adam's out of Wisconsin. So I'm so used to saying Washington, D.C. He's out of Wisconsin. He's got a couple real estate holdings. He's been a firefighter for 7 years with his current department. He did a couple years in a suburb before that. He also owns a business called Jackedup, which is kind of cool, where you basically lift concrete that's been deteriorating or has settled. So we're going to go over a bunch of that stuff. Adam, thanks for joining us today. We're going to make it real simple, beginning, middle, end. Like, where did you start to get in the fire department? You've been in for a couple of years, and what made you transition into real estate and business owner?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is exciting. It's a little out of my normal comfort zone, so I'll do my best here. But I started in the fire department probably like 12 years ago. Volunteered for a couple of years and went part-time and then got hired full-time. But prior to that, I went to college because my parents said I need to go to college. I mostly drank my way through and didn't know what I was going to do. Did some sales jobs out of college for a while, mostly construction equipment related. Economy kind of crapped out in 07, 08. And bounced around a little bit. We bought it, my wife and I, at the time we were just dating, but bought our first house in 07 before bottom fell out.
Ooh.
And we still own it today. We tried selling it probably 2012 or 13 for 20 grand less than we paid for it. No one would even look at it. So we decided to become landlords. And I guess that's kind of how being a landlord started, but we sat on just that one for a number of years. My wife decided to become a realtor. She was kind of sick of corporate America, even though she's still doing it. She does corporate real estate now and a realtor in part-time. And after kind of doing some sales jobs, I kind of decided that maybe I needed something else. So I started volunteering as a firefighter and shortly figured out that that was way better than doing sales every day of my life in corporate America. So I slowly but surely started taking the classes I needed to be able to get hired full-time. So it took a few years. And then after about 4 to 5 years of part-time, I got hired full-time for the city of Racine.
Nice. So what did you go to college for?
I have a business degree in business marketing because once I got about 3 to almost 4 years in, I realized that was my fastest way out the door for my fifth year of college. So yeah, I worked most of the way through, did a lot of construction, but I didn't have a lot of focus on what I was going to do after, to be honest.
Focus on partying, minor in business and partying.
It was a good time. It was a good 5 years of my life.
Majored in drinking beer. It's a country song.
Yeah, it was a good time, but afterwards I got into corporate America and it was not for me.
Do you feel like the college route worked in your favor? That's a very broad question.
Yeah, I mean, it got me I'm not from a small town, but from a little bit farther north in Wisconsin. My dad's a retired iron worker. My mom's a teacher. I would have probably worked for the same construction company he did. Never left. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just think that got me out of, that probably path in life. So, it is what it is. I don't know that college was necessarily for me, but it got to me where I am today, and I'm pretty happy with the path that we've traveled. So
basically just opened doors for you and made more opportunity for you to move in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So I was having a conversation with somebody I know in passing who makes moonshine up in Cole County in Pennsylvania. Nice. And they were like, basically like you graduate high school, you get married, and then you go work on the mines like everybody else does. Like that's their routes. Like they don't know any better because nobody ever teaches them better. So the only other option is either go to college, and they're not taught about grants and scholarships and stuff like that. So I think going to college has its strengths and weaknesses. But if it opens more doors, anything that opens more doors is a benefit to you, then pursue it. That's just my opinion. So, what you went to school for the business? Did that help you with the business that you have now?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe my mindset, even just going to college for business, it definitely helped with economics, accounting. I think I have a little better handle than I maybe would have if I never would have done any of that, and just maybe going to a 2-year fire science degree if I would have gone that route. So definitely think it has helped a little bit.
So I did a fire science degree, and I was like, I don't see this being useful in any aspect of my career whatsoever. And even to this day, I'm like, all the core credits leading up to that, I was like, this was an absolute waste. But the one thing I did go to school and I enjoyed was arson investigation. And I actually learned a ton, and we got to light stuff on fire, and I got college credits for it. So I'm like, I can't complain about that.
Sure.
So can you use your college credits for your promotion in your department? Is that?
I can, yes.
Okay.
So to be promoted to like lieutenant in our department, currently at least, it's time on the job, and you got to pass a test. So same then goes, you got to be a lieutenant for, I think, at least a year, then you can take the captain's test. So it doesn't really require, but if you wanted to move into a battalion chief role or higher, you're going to need a 4-year degree. And I don't think I'll ever apply for any of those positions, but if I wanted to, I suppose I have that in my back pocket. I've already got a college degree.
So let's talk about some of the real estate holdings, and then we're going to go into the business aspect of it. So the real estate holdings that you guys have, you don't have just like one or two. You got 6 long-term rentals, and you just bought your first long-distance short-term rental, which is, I mean, it's 1,000 miles away. You're in Wisconsin. The property's in Florida, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's in Port St. Joe, Florida. We'd visited that area a couple of years in a row, and kind of fell in love. One of my dad's good friends has a place down there, and I didn't realize farther south in Florida, I think winters are a big destination. The Panhandle seems more like summers. People inland take their vacations, which we have no desire to use it in summertime at all. So we'll rent it out during the busy season, and then we'll enjoy it 3 different weeks out of the year, fall, winter. Maybe it's not crazy nice in Florida in February, but it's better than the minus 10 degrees in Wisconsin. So we'll take it.
Do the snowbird thing. Yeah, I get it.
Right. So
that's me and my wife, we're not necessarily beach people, but we have a place at the beach, and I'm like, I don't think for the most part we'll use it during the summertime. We'll probably go somewhere cooler in the summer, like Iceland, Scotland, Ireland, Wisconsin. Come hang out with you and Racine because I heard the scenery is beautiful up there. So how did you find a property in Florida? Like who'd you use to find a property down there? And how'd you pick the area?
Yeah, so the Bigger Pockets a couple years ago most of us found it and realized what I was kind of doing, and then had a purpose to it, and then all of a sudden it just poured fuel on the fire. But I had heard about Avery Carls, I think is her name, on Bigger Pockets about the short-term shop, and I started looking at the markets that she was in, and one of them happened to be an area that we had vacationed a handful of times. So we started working with one of their real estate professionals, or one of their realtors in the Port St. Joe area. And my wife actually found this house we bought off market, and we ended up using the realtor through that, but we found the house ourselves. So we got a little better deal working off market. We'd send a lot of letters out. She was looking every day. We buy houses locally. A few of them have been off market. So we kind of have got a little bit of a idea of what we're doing. So we just kind of focus that in the Port St. Joe area.
So how'd you find the off-market deal? Was it just letters to? How'd you find the buyer?
Well, so there's a couple of areas we were really interested in, and just kind of using PropStream for the most part, seeing who owned anything for any period of time, and targeting letters. And we got a few phone calls. So there was a few areas that we were really interested in, and we just kind of wrote letters to everyone in those areas that had equity in their homes that I owned for a while that it made sense to send letters to.
So Tyler loves marketing. Like that's one of he's one of the things that is a strong point at is his marketing. Tyler, can you kind of go over like what PropStream is and how to utilize it for something like this?
Yeah, sure. So PropStream is pretty much think of it as a website where you can go ahead, you can access owner data, transaction data. They have lists that they've already pulled for you as far as like inherited, death, things like that. It's basically it's interesting too. So there's something called PropStream and something called Prop Radar, and they're basically the one-stop shop now for what we used to have to do on your own. You used to have to go to the recorder's office or go to like a list source and aggregate stuff. So now you go to PropStream and you can do a bunch of things. You can look at the houses that you're interested in. You can create a geographic search area, get all the owner data so you can market that way. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do with it.
Okay. So I know, Adam, you've done what, 12 houses, 12 flips before you bought this?
Correct. Yep.
Were you using the PropStream and Prop Radar and stuff like that to find those? Like, how were you getting those?
Well, to be honest, I have yet to buy, other than a house in Florida, a house locally that we flipped off of PropStream. I've had some decent leads that have not worked out. We've bought 2 houses off market. One was a neighbor whose coworker, I think family member passed, and they knew that we flipped houses, so they kind of hooked us up. Another one was just a kind of a mess. I say emailing my wife, kind of sending stuff out. Was before PropStream, same concept, but it was before we were using PropStream. Just kind of seeing how driving for dollars type of thing, and finding one. The rest of the houses some have been on market, and 4 or 5 have been from a wholesaler.
Got it. So driving for dollars is something I like to do. So I just got another motorcycle. I've been riding on and off since I was 10, and I've got a lot of blowback for having knobbies on a street tire. But I like to wear it down. So I like to go out and like just kind of see what's going on in the neighborhood. So I'll go out and grab pamphlets and flyers like I have in my hand. It's just like little door hangers, and just put them on the doors and say, "Hey, are you interested in selling your house?" And now that we talked to Travis Oglesby a little while ago, like I might change my strategy, be like, "Hey, I'll just take over your payments to your property, and I'll just, it's just another tool in the toolbox." But I like driving for dollars because I think it's a underutilized tool in people's toolboxes. If you have spare time, drive home a different way from work or a different way from the grocery store or the gas station, and just see what houses are beat up and in disrepair, and just see it, knock on the door. You can drop a flyer. You can skip trace them. There's free skip tracing tools to find out who they are. But yeah, there's definitely a couple of different ways to kind of get into the game without having to come out of pocket a ton of money. Like I've got 500 of these door hangers for $80. So that's 500 potential leads, which I don't think, even if it's one lead off of $80, it'll be worth it. So the 12 houses the 12 plus houses that you've done so far, were they all flips? Are they all buying wholes? Did you keep some of them? What's the deal?
So the 12 would be flips. I would say of the 6 long-term rentals I owned, one of those was it was next door to one of the other places I bought, and it made sense. We made good money on it. So we bought it, and other than maybe some door locks and a few other very minor things, we didn't do any. Most of the other 5 have been pretty much value add. Other than number 1 was my very first house that we still own from 2007. But we've done a lot of work to that house over the years as well. My second one was Hubzu in like 2012 or 13. Bought that one for like $39,000. It was, windows were busted out of it. It was, all the copper pipes were pulled out of the house. So that one was I say a complete gut, but it was a lot of work. And then we kind of sat on that one for a few years as well. And then we started flipping houses, and then I kind of got on the bigger pockets. And we were doing it slow, but once I kind of got a little bit of I'd say experience and probably some method to the madness, it started getting a lot better, a lot quicker. I could get 3, 4, 5 done a year, as opposed to me doing one and killing myself every day that I'm not there. I started hiring contractors and getting systems in place that I can be up north and be on shift and still be making money and stuff done. So
yeah, you got a systems in place. Like you got to get enough touches or kind of get a system in place. And once it's done, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Like for me, like the paint is repose gray, white trim. I do, this toilet. I do this fixture. I do, you just know what to put into it. And you have
I think it's worldly gray is the color my wife picks out. Is their current color, and pretty much same.
We use Revere.
I feel like I would say more than half of the houses flipped in the U.S. in the last 2 or 3 years are some kind of gray color. It's just, it is what it is. It's the popular color. Um, are you still pursuing more real estate right now, or are you kind of focused on the jacked up concrete
We are. I
floors?
mean, the real estate, I feel like, has gotten to the point where it doesn't. I mean, it definitely needs me to be involved with it. But I can. I also got my general contractor's license a couple years ago, so I can pull my own permits. But I've got some really good contractors that you give them a little direction, they can take it 90% of the way. So it's just kind of to my wife and I overseeing it. We've got good relationships and we've got some good contractors. And I like keeping busy. I mean, right now I'm redoing the siding on my house, and I would have probably been involved between the concrete lifting and liking the idea of keeping them busy between the next one. I having them put the LP siding on, a new soffit, fascia gutters, just because I don't want to lose them. 'Cause I know if they get too tied up, like my general contractor in general, it's going to be a while before I see them again. And
It's hard to get them back too.
we have a house kind of close, so I think we'll have it locked up hopefully shortly, and then we can keep them rolling on to the next one. So we're trying to do both.
So time management's a big thing. So like I had a guy over here the other day. I got him getting an estimate to take a tree down, and for me to go up my tree, it's going to take me twice as long as having this guy here. While he's doing that, I can go into my shop and do woodworking and make more per hour than I'm paying him to drop a tree, or how much it's just cost management and time management. And I think as we've gotten older, it's just that becomes more apparent. Like, what's my time worth? And is it worth it for me to break my back to do this versus hiring it out? Like Tyler, we were just talking about this a little while ago, like your time management and hiring certain things out with marketing.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, because as you start to become more productive too, and you're able to generate income, you realize how valuable your time is. And as your business grows, your dollar per hour grows. And if there's anything below that dollar per hour, it's not worth it. We were talking about texting. If you can outsource the texting portion of it, let alone the training, and that cost will be made up in whatever your time frame is. For me, it's within 1 year. If I can recoup that cost, I'm all in. And it's carried over to home too. Anything that I can do on my own to where I'm going to make more money than I would if I was going to do that task, I'm going to outsource it, because you only have so much time in the day. And like we've talked about, Aaron, your time's valuable now. Now it's, spending time, like for you, I know you go to the beach a lot with your wife and you guys go out and hike and stuff like that. For me, it's right now it's softball and baseball coaching, and that's what I want to do. So if I can spend money and have somebody else do something for me while I'm gone doing that, I'm 100% going to do it.
Yeah, time gets more valuable the older you get. When you're a kid, you don't appreciate it as much, I don't think. But as us gentlemen have gotten older, it's like, okay, like I know, Adam, you got a family and kids, so the time with your kids is invaluable.
It's huge.
Tyler, you're the same way, I'm sure.
100%.
So Adam, when we first started talking on the Facebook group about this, like you promoted the Jackedup company.
Yep.
I think I've looked at this and I've actually tried to get a couple people out to several properties of mine to do it. Tell me what is Jackedup and why'd you pick that as your franchise, or if you did it on your own, or what? Just walk me through it.
Yeah, so same problem. Some of the houses we flipped, some of the rentals I own, I've tried getting somebody out, and no shows, no callbacks. Someone does show up, they give me this crazy number, and maybe we can get it done this year, maybe we can't. It was driving me nuts. And I had a flip that I was really under the gun with a couple of years ago, kind of late in the season, where it was coming up towards November, where nobody was even going to come out. So I talked someone into coming out, paid through the teeth to get the concrete leveled. And he's a little bit older guy, and I'm assuming just because of the fact that I was flipping properties, he assumed I had access to money or could figure it out. He was doing it since the early 90s, standard mud jacking, and wanted to know if I had any interest in buying him out. And I'd hear it out. So I met with him a couple times, checked out his books a little bit, and I saw the profit margins, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. So I worked with him last summer, a couple of different days, and after seeing the process, works great. But actual mud jacking using concrete, I mean, he had 18 quad axle dump trucks getting delivered of aggregate to his house twice a week. I mean, I've got a big property, but my wife would shoot me if I had semis delivering mountains of aggregate every day or every couple times a week. And he had a 3-man crew with every job he'd go to. He had to mix concrete, he had to clean it up. It was a very time consuming process, and a lot of the equipment would break on him just because it's concrete pumps and concrete mixers, and he had old equipment and broke down everywhere. And decided I wasn't buying him out; just didn't make sense. Maybe buying new concrete lifting equipment. I found a company locally, HMI. It's actually in Wisconsin that sells both concrete lifting or mud jacking equipment and the poly system. So I drove up there for a day and met with them. And after seeing how that process worked, it wasn't even a question. It was, if I was going to do it, it was going to be the polyurethane.
So mud jacking is more of a concrete slurry, so it's a lot harder on equipment.
It is.
What you're doing is polyjacking, for the nickname of it,
Yep.
which is what? Like, what is polyjacking versus mud jacking?
I mean, we've got a big trailer with two different foams in it, an A and a B, and when they mix, they expand, kind of like a great stuff. Same kind of concept. It's just this is high density, so it's got the power to lift concrete. The nice thing about it is it fills all the voids. When you use standard mud jacking, you're kind of making you make larger holes, like 1.5 inches to 1.5 inches, and you make little pillars, but basically pies underneath it that force the concrete up. Using the polyurethane, it shoots down the hole, and it basically takes the path of least resistance. So it's filling all the void space.
So I know a lot of.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So I know that a lot of, especially these new builds I'm seeing, they're going up so fast. The soil testing isn't done right. The leveling isn't done. They're not doing backfill properly. So a lot of settlement issues on a lot of the properties I've seen go up in the last couple of years. So what, other than the settlement issues, like, and not just other than settlement issues are when the concrete falls down because it's not attached to the building, like a driveway or a sidewalk or whatever.
Yep.
Like why would somebody call you to come out there and lift their concrete? Like, what's the
biggest ones we're seeing? I mean, a lot of trip hazards are really common, at least in Wisconsin. I mean, you guys have snow too, but snow blowers smacking the apron of the garage, anywhere in the driveway, walkways. But a lot of houses, I mean, it's slowing down a little bit, especially with inspections. But a lot of houses when they're selling, if they've dropped below that 8-inch mark, for the front stoop or any step anywhere, the inspector will flag it, and they want to brought back to code. So they'll give us a call, and we need to try to get it done before it closes. To raise that concrete back, at least within that 8-inch mark or less.
So this is more of a contractor thing. So your rise and your run and your steps, the maximum rise on a step is 8 inches, because anything more than 8 inches becomes a trip hazard. So what he does is Adam does is he comes in, he raises the concrete so it's below that 8 inches threshold so they can pass inspection. Is that right?
That's correct, 100%.
So it's a whole lot cheaper than going out there and tearing up the concrete, breaking it up, repouring it, re-leveling it, and yada yada yada. So it's a way to fix it. So I don't know this. How long does polyjacking last? Like, how long does the sub?
From what I mean, so this is still pretty new to us. We're giving a 3-year guarantee on it, but from talking to HMI and some other people doing it, I mean, 10 years or greater. I mean, probably the life of the concrete, but I'd expect to see 10 years out of it or more.
So what does equipment look like? What does buy-in look like?
COVID was a huge headache. I mean, with that for everybody, we decided we were going to move forward. So I bought this business with a buddy of mine, a business partner who's been wanting to go on his own for a while. He's kind of worked for a restoration company as their kind of general manager for a number of years. He's a Iraq vet, great guy, super hard worker, looking to go on his own. And I looked at just doing it myself, and just knowing that it's going to be a headache. Bring a business partner on made a lot of sense. You can buy like a Ford Transit van, like a 350, extra long, extra tall. So we ordered one, and you can do the build out through Ford, and they have great financing. The problem is you have to see it. I mean, they have to be able to build it and get it to you within a reasonable amount of time. So spring came, and we had the Ford Transit van ordered last fall. February came when it was supposed to initially show up, didn't come, back ordered. Mid-March came, should see it any month now. It's like if we wait any longer, we're going to miss most of the season. So we went to plan B and bought a trailer. You need something with a little bit heavier axles on it, at least 5,200 pound axles, because the overall setup is more like 8,000 pounds with the trailer. So 2,500-pound axles isn't enough. So trying to find a trailer right now is not the easiest either.
Nope.
We did a bunch of calling around, found one, then so we bought a trailer, bought a truck to pull it, a 3/4 ton, which we way overpaid for, but it is, we wanted to move forward. It is what it is. And we got all the built. I mean, HMI has the equipment. It's just a matter of, the container to put it in is the issue. So we figured that out pretty quickly. And then, so our first setup is a 16-foot enclosed trailer and a 3/4 ton Silverado.
Okay. So did you buy into a franchise or did you start up with your own?
We started on our own. So HMI doesn't offer that. I know there are some out there. I'm not saying I wouldn't buy into a franchise. I just feel like I've been doing, I guess, enough on my own for a little bit here that I can self-finance if need be, and we've got the ability to, make it work. It's not like I really, really need somebody to, back me. We did take a business loan out on it, but that being said, we can roll with it for a while, not being that busy. However, the phone's ringing off the hook. I can't pick up the phone up fast enough. I can't get to places fast enough. And I don't want to be the contractors that I despise that, when I was looking for them, I couldn't get to call me back or stop out. So this is a real sticking point early on here that we have to figure out. But we wish we will.
Have you guys?
I was going to say, I know you're going to go into the VA things. Let's go into that.
That's what I was going to say too. I mean, you could hire a VA, and I mean, unless you want to hire somebody stateside, and they can still be a VA. But have you guys thought about that? Hiring, appointment setters?
I've listened to VAs before, like on different podcasts. I've actually went back and listened to all yours and your podcast. And you guys recently, I don't remember what episode it was, 4 or 5 maybe, talked about someone using VAs, and that really sparked in my mind here. It was probably on Monday. So I really think I need to do some research here in the next week on a VA. Might make complete sense.
You can get a great VA, college educated, speaks perfect English, for maybe $6-7 an hour on the high side, and they'd be polished. And you can go through companies that already train them as far as phone skills and stuff like that. That would be my first hire, because if you have that problem, you could be out on the road. They could be setting appointments. My head's already turning. I'm like, oh, this will just easily fall in. They can schedule it for you. Hit your phone with the calendar link. Boom, boom, boom. Because like we just talked about, that's probably your lowest, your lowest paying job. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard because and that's, we need to do something. And the whole idea is, we started flipping houses, and I was beating my head against the wall because we're doing everything. That Robert Kiyosaki's, I think it's Cash Flow Quadrant. There's that little story about the village needing water, and the guy, they contracted 2 different companies out. One guy was carrying buckets every day. The other guy spent a bunch of time busting his ass building a pipeline. And I try to ask myself every day, am I just carrying buckets all day long every day, or am I building a pipeline? I don't mind putting the work in, but I want it to go somewhere so that I'm not beating my head against the wall for years doing this.
I was going to say one thing, Aaron, and then hop in. I just thought, so Keener, Keener, and Call Porter are 2 companies that are basically answering services for real estate. I would call Keener because I think they actually have a broader reach. I use them now, and it's an easy setup fee. You give them the questions that you want them to ask, and they'll set appointments for you. I would say that would probably be the quickest plug and play, and all the calls are recorded so you can listen to them. I would highly suggest maybe, I'll take the VA back. I would say just start with Keener.
All right.
Get that going, and then go from there.
Thank you.
So we talk about making the system more smooth. So we're losing a lot, as a contractor, you're losing a lot of time driving, time and money driving to and from, especially these gas prices at $5 a gallon or wherever you guys are. Tyler's probably at $10 a gallon in frickin' California. And I'm sure your F-250 is your what'd you get, Chevy or Ford?
Yeah, Chevy. Yeah, Silverado 3/4 ton. Yeah.
I won't judge you.
So my daily driver is a Suburban, which is not much better for going to look at calls.
So are you driving diesel or are you driving
gas? And
gas,
I'm actually trading that in for a 3/4 ton diesel Suburban or Silverado. So yeah. So
when you're hauling, you're probably getting 7 or 8 miles per gallon when you're hauling all the equipment. So that's a cost factor. And one of the contractor groups that I'm in, this is part of the conversation we had was, are you increasing your charge now because the gas prices increases? Because at $2 or $2.50 a gallon versus $5 a gallon, your cost expense to go up and your time on the road goes up. So have you factored that in at all?
I have. I've been adding the last couple of weeks here. I started adding a fuel surcharge on, depending how far away it is.
Okay.
I would love to get rid of it. I don't. I mean, I guess when I get quotes, I don't love seeing them, but it's a real cost, and I would love to get rid of it if the fuel prices would come down. So I just kind of tag it on as an extra line item.
A buddy of mine is looking at doing RV rentals. So he has $1 per mile to drive and drop an RV off at a campsite. And then the people will rent the RV at the campsite and then he pick it up and bring it back. So it's like a tow behind like a fifth wheel.
Sure.
But he's like, dude, he's like, I can't do it unless I have $1 per mile to cover my fuel costs to haul these things back and forth. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. How about SEO, like search engine optimization? Have you done anything with that yet? Like I know your phone's ringing off the hook as it is now. So
yeah. So I don't want to take the throttle off of marketing. So we actually have been using a third party who he's actually very clever. I mean, he's great. He's been sending us a lot of leads. Not all of them, but a good portion. He's local here, but he does all around the country. So he owns the website Milwaukee Mudjacking. You know, so someone's Googling mudjacking where they are. Waukesha's another bigger city in the area. He has Twin Cities mudjacking. I mean, so he's filtering leads and sending them. I do need to do more. We're doing a fair amount of Facebook marketing, but I'm about 75 leads behind. I need to follow up on it at this moment. So I need to do. I can't just focus on that because I need to find a VA or another path. So I need to also work on filtering some of that, but or siphoning it off to somebody else. But I don't want to take my foot off the throttle either. I don't want to just depend on it because that could dry up.
So you're in Wisconsin, so your business model is very much weather dependent, right? So you guys get cold 6 months of the year at least, and so you have to do this within that time frame. Like, what's your constraints on polyjacking versus mudjacking?
I think the time frame is probably, roughly the same. If when the frost is out on the ground, you can start moving the concrete. Otherwise, you're trying to move ground with concrete. It's all going to be one giant mass. But that being said, we found out early on that at least one part of the foam, the B side of it, is much thicker than the A. And there's a reactor inside the trailer, and you got to warm it up, and you have to get it to like 100 plus degrees. So when it's colder outside, it takes a lot longer. If you go too fast, your gun gels up, and you back everything up, and you turn you'll lose an hour or two cleaning the gun.
So I know with a lot of fencing and roofing companies, what they'll do is do an aerial view and say, okay, like, Adam, send me your address, and I'll go do aerial view of it, and I can do a line measurement. And like, okay, you have this much fence, you have this much roof, and I can give you an estimate based off of that. Can you have the people who are asking you to come out take pictures and send them to you and kind of base it off of that?
I've been trying it, and it has been working a little bit. I would say about 4 to 1. I close if I shake someone's hand, meet with them. There's a lot of them I just stop by even in the middle of the day because I just got to keep moving. But I would say majority of the ones, if I had time to meet with you, I will get it locked up. If I'm throwing quotes out there, it's hard for them to know me from the next guy. So that's hard. So I'm trying to figure that out as well. I guess if I'm not going there and I can do it all online, then maybe it's a game of numbers. But I do have noticed significantly more closes if I can meet the person face to face.
Face to face. So yeah. I guess so. I'm trying to think of this as a contractor standpoint. So if I'm trying to work with you as a homeowner and I see you face to face, it has more of an impression and a lasting impression, which is important because lasting impressions create memories. Memories create business. Same thing for like the touches when Tyler does marketing. Like I think you have to have like 5 touches before they remember who you are. So for this stuff, like I wonder if you could just get pictures of them, like send me pictures of the property, send me, whatever. And then you can give them an estimate and then show up and be like, okay, while I'm out there on this day, I'll come by and see you and, shake hands, kiss babies and whatever you need to do to politic to get in the good graces with them. On top of the SEO and the VA and being in person, like what else are you guys doing? Like Facebook marketing, anything else?
Just the yard sign. We've gotten a number of calls. If we do, obviously, do a good job. Just asking to put a yard sign out front. We've gotten a number of calls. I've tried a little bit. If we get one locked up, maybe just go door to door, like you pointed out. Some of those door hangers. Just try to line up 3, 4, 5 in that area before we come back, so I can have the guys spend the entire day, not driving all around. We can get an extra job or 2 done if we're not wasting it driving across, 20 minutes to the next job site and then 20 minutes to the one after. So we're trying to do that. Dev the Trailer has gotten us 3 or 4 calls already. We just got logo put on it a week and a half ago. Just having it rolled down the road seems to be generating calls as well. So I'd say that, word of mouth, Facebook, bandit signs have been helpful. But like I said, the phone is ringing off the hook. So which is
I had a guy, it was a roofer, it was a roofing company, and he came by the house. He's like, hey, he's one of those typical like door knockers, like, hey, we're doing roofs and windows in your neighborhood. Would you be interested? And I was like, I'm not. I was like, where are you doing it at? He's like, well, honestly, he's like, I'm one of the co-owners. What we do is I'll have my guys work on the roof while I'm there overseeing them. I'll go knock on doors, while they're doing the roof until they're done, and then we'll move on to the next job. I'm like, that's not a terrible business model. I wouldn't, as the owner, be the one door knocking. I would hire somebody to do that. But it's like you already have bodies on site. If you have somebody with downtime, send them down the block and knock on doors and put hangers on there. Obviously, you're a 2-man crew. I know you and your veteran partner are both going to be busy doing this thing together. Is this a 2-man job? Is this a 5-man job? You hire?
So I got at least one good buddy of mine from we used to work together at the volunteer department. He's in a different fire department, but he helps us out a couple days a week. We got one high school kid lined up when school's out for a number of days. So just having a second person, for lack of a better term, doing the bitch work. Drilling holes, patching the concrete when you're done, just kind of cleaning everything up. I think it makes a difference of doing $2,000 to $3,000 a day from to maybe $3,000 to $4,000 a day in work. I think you can sneak an extra job in by having that second person, and just a little sanity for the other person too. But it's hard. If I'm out doing sales calls all day, which needs to happen. We got to keep the hopper full. So we need a second person helping Dylan out, so we can keep him as efficient as possible as well.
What's the life expectancy on the poly? Was it not the poly and the equipment? Because I know concrete's extremely hard on the equipment, and it doesn't like you have to if it's wet, then it has to be turned real fast, or you have more time to work with it. If it's dry concrete, then you have to mix it on site. So what's the lifespan on this stuff? Like if I order it and I have it on site, like what's the life expectancy?
In the barrels, about a year. That's what they're saying, a year.
A year, really?
A year, yep. As long as it doesn't freeze, which or get below, I think it's at minus 36 degrees or something. So if we get a set left at the end of the season, we'll find a heated area so they don't actually freeze.
Put it in the garage. Have your wife yell at you.
Right. I've already I've got a pull shed out back, which she doesn't go to a whole lot. It's pretty full, but we're going through barrels so fast that now there's, I think 12 of them sitting back there empty that I got to go do something with. So pretty soon it's going to just overrun us, and I got to find a disposal place to get rid of all these things.
Sell them as burn barrels.
Right. Well, they're poly. But
oh, they'll burn real well then.
Yeah, right.
EPA might not like it. But
trying to talk somebody to make like decorative lawn ornaments or rain barrels, but I don't know if you want those for rain barrels. So.
Ty.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing. I was just that was interesting to me that he started that quickly, ramped it all up, and like you were saying, I was thinking, he has everything in his garage over the wife. That's why I was laughing, because I'm thinking I've got stuff in my garage still from Boise, just marketing stuff that I have to get out of the house too. It's like, all right. Yeah. But that's a good problem to have, that you were doing that much business to where you have all those barrels. And I know that we were touching on marketing and stuff like that too. Have you thought, does your wife work? Does she have any part in the business?
I think she will if I find a VA, maybe not, but maybe answer the phones a little more often. We're kind of pushing her onto that. She definitely helps out with the Facebook stuff. If you went into my Facebook page, it's pretty sad. She does a lot more, like when we flip houses and stuff, all that's on her realtor page. She's definitely a lot more active on social media. So she's a big help on that end of it. And she's can gladly help out talking to customers, maybe invoicing a little bit. That type of stuff, background and stuff that's time consuming, and then she does a better job than I do.
I hate Facebook marketing. Facebook marketing is a pain in the butt to me. There's just so many moving parts and levers, and to get in front of people. It's like it's just, to me, it got confusing. Years ago, I used to do it for events I would host, but now it's just like, I feel like for me, the time it would take to figure it out, I can hire it out to somebody else for less and get a better response rate.
And it's hard too because your timeline for a Facebook market lead versus like a Google PPC is just drastically longer. I know people compare it to like, a Facebook lead is like somebody going to sit down at a coffee shop and hang out for a while and kind of peruse. The Google like the PPC stuff is somebody who has an immediate need and is doing a targeted search. We still have Facebook right now. What I kind of like too, we've changed is our ad spend for Facebook right now is a lot lower. But what we're noticing is people that are seeing our stuff on Facebook are actually, for whatever reason, they're bypassing the Facebook ad itself. They're going to Google, entering my company name into Google, and then they're actually clicking and filling the lead form out through that. So don't discount it, because we were like, man, Facebook's not working, we're not converting. And then we started to see, where did you hear about us? It would say Facebook. But as far as the lead source that's generated through the website that we use, it was Google Direct or Google paid ad. So I was going to stop doing Facebook because it's a pain in the butt sometimes, and that process is run out. But we started putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, hey, just drop the ad spend on Facebook. It'll continue. Like the one that I mentioned this morning, Aaron, for Travis in Illinois, that was a Facebook lead found through Google. So although it's a pain in the butt, Facebook does still generate leads. It has gotten a lot worse with housing, for example, because you have all these parameters and all these rules that you have to follow that you did not have to follow before. But I would think, Adam, that do you guys generate a fair amount of business on your Facebook yet, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple a day are coming in.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And is your cost per lead a lot cheaper than your other lead source?
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a fourth probably.
See, that's the thing too. If you can withstand the wasted phone calls, I'm sure you get more through that. I mean, it's a much cheaper lead source.
Yeah. And so part of it is at least that our lead generator, or that Milwaukee Mudjacking, we getting a lot of great leads from them, but I'm also getting a lot of really inner city stuff where it's they come at us. I'm trying to pre-qualify a lot of that before I go look. I mean, if the vehicle's going to get ripped off and we sitting on blocks, 10 seconds after we walk away, it's not happening. Yeah. Or we want us to lift asphalt or concrete pavers, or the concrete is so busted up that it's basically gravel. It's not happening. Okay. So I try to pre-qualify a lot of that stuff as well, and maybe a good VA could take care of that for me as well.
Nice.
Basically, like, take a picture of it. If it looks busted, just kick it to the side so the VA doesn't waste your time with it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that would save me a headache of having to respond and formulate the thoughts on it, and it just saves time. And time is money. So walk me through. So I know we've been talking about what it is. Walk me through the process. I know it's drill a hole, and then what? Like, once I get there, it's sunk down a couple inches, the driveway or whatever it might be. Like, what do we do here?
Yep, like garage approaches are pretty common for us. It's dropped maybe 2 inches below the garage floor, or the floor of the garage, and a lot of times we'll run a saw down it just to make sure it's not hung up on anything. If it's nice and clean, you can see down it. We won't, but we kind of come back probably a foot 18 inches. Drill holes that are 5/8 in diameter. You put a port in it, basically a plug that your gun kind of screws to, and you run air through it to make sure that there's no space underneath it. If you got nothing underneath you, it's going to back up into your gun, and it's not going to end well for you. Something's going to give. So you shoot a little foam down there, and the hardest part is, at least for me, I'm used to working on a truck. I mean, I beat the shit out of stuff.
Nothing's fireman proof.
You gotta wait. Like, you gotta wait 30 seconds for it to do its thing, and then you kind of build a pillar around it. And there's always air shooting through the gun to keep a void space, where the hole is. So you gotta wait a little bit, at least right away, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and you give it another little shot. You're trying to build pillars basically, instead of just sending foam everywhere and anywhere. And then you start lifting off of it. Once it starts moving, sometimes early it's a little hard because you're just staring at the same spot, and it's like, I think it moved. I hope it moved. And we're getting better at, we used to set levels down. The first 16th, 32nd of an inch, it's hard to see, but when it starts moving, it moves fast. It's just getting it to go. A real concern is overlifting, because once that shit goes, it's not going back. So if you got 2 inches or greater, I mean, you can get some good movement, but once you get to the last 1/4 inch, you got to go real slow. So
Patience.
we'll drill those holes, back a little bit and lift it to where it needs to go. And then, if it's a 8-foot wide by 12-foot deep, section of concrete, midway in when we're done, we'll drill another hole, and then we've done a void fill so that everything's nice and it's solid. There's not we didn't create a giant void underneath the piece of concrete that someone's going to try to drive over.
So what causes these voids?
Just like you kind of talked about, a lot more often than not, they're right around the houses. When they built them, they didn't do a great job of backfilling, and things settle over the years. More often than not, that's the case. Sometimes it's drainage problems. People don't have gutters where they're supposed to be. It kind of runs over the top, or they're draining. At least in the city of Milwaukee, they used to drain right into the city sewer, and a lot of those pipes have broke. So at the foundation level, they're kind of a lot of basin and foundation problems, but then that erodes a lot of that soil away as well and gets concrete to sink. So it's usually some type of erosion of soil. I mean, whatever causes it, and a lot of heaving too. I mean, things freeze in Wisconsin. When they freeze and thaw, things contract and expand, so they'll push up on each other.
So I don't know about you guys. So in this area, this is anywhere from 50 years old to 200-300 years old of buildings. So around here, like a lot of the issues we have is settling and roots from trees. So I've seen a lot of it's like sanding down. I don't know the proper term for it. Sanding down concrete to get rid of these trip hazards. Do you guys have that around you?
We do. We'll grind it. We've got couple grinders, and it's with cup wheels on them, and we'll grind it down if we need to. We'll quote that.
So is that an add value or
it's an added line item, and the reality is it does take time and it's kind of a pain in the ass. But setting a guy on a grinder is not that expensive. I mean, there's no product going in. It doesn't take that much. Usually we can get it down in 20 minutes or less. The other thing is caulking. If we want to put some backer rod in and self-leveling caulk, we'll gladly do that as well, but that's a charge per foot as well.
So I know that in your notes it said that you took about a year of research to get everything going, right?
Yeah, so I looked at buying another guy's mud jacking company and then worked with him last summer thinking maybe I was going to buy him out. And when that didn't happen, it was too late to buy something that year and try to make it work, I felt like. So at that point, then it was just kind of, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And try to get a decent website and some marketing and a logo and make sure everything's in order. All our costs are figured out instead of just shooting from the hip.
Okay, because a lot of guys that we talk to, they'll have a lot of analysis paralysis and stuff like that. Looking back on it, would you have shortened that time span at all? Like, would you have? Now you said you're so busy, you have business booked out, and you have so many leads. Or just because it sounds like maybe at the seasonality of it, it was more that as opposed to you guys dragging your feet. Yeah, no, I wasn't. At least maybe a little bit of dragging the feet. I was more of just worrying that we were going to get all the equipment at the end of the season and have it sit for. Yeah, so I'm not much of if I'm going to move, I'm usually going to pull the trigger and it's going to happen. So it was more of deciding not buying the other guy out after doing some work with him, and at that point it was. Especially with COVID and looking into ordering a van, they said they were going to get it in October, November, and I was like, well, at this point now we'll just wait till next season and do it right. Well, then we still didn't get the van. I still had to go out and buy a trailer and a truck. So okay, and you don't have to get into dollar amounts, but you said that the biggest surprise for you was the profit margin on these things. That went into play. Do you mind giving kind of like a rough idea of what that is? Yeah, so after figuring out the product itself is about 30% of the cost of the job. So I'm running at roughly 50% profit. Nice. Good for you. Yeah, I think that's not a bad profit margin. The mud jacking guy was higher. He had all his equipment paid for, is all older. He had one guy working with him, or two guys that were $12 an hour day laborers that he screamed at all day long. So, after looking at his, profit margins was like, holy cow, we're definitely higher, but we're definitely rolling at about 50%. And I think we can do a little better. I think,
So we're doing about 2,500 a day averaging. Some days don't go as planned. It's 1,500. The next day is 3 to 35. I think once we really get dialed in, it'll be more like 3 to 4 a day, and those days we'll hit 5+ in sales.
Do you have so at the station? Guys always, they like to, especially at the kitchen table, they always want to talk trash on business ideas. And do you have guys now that are seeing what you're doing, or kind of like, hey, what's going on with this company of yours?
So this company, I mean, there's a few guys who definitely are aware of it. A lot of guys, make fun of me for the rental properties and the flipping. Of course, you're
always,
of course,
do it. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm a
slumlord,
right? Nothing but so. I mean, a bunch of the guys. I mean, I think they for the most part see that it's working for me, and whatever. I take shots. I'll give shots right back. It is what it is. So. It's just the way the firehouse rolls. So
absolutely,
I get over it.
Terms of endearment. That's all it is. If they're not making fun of you, that means they don't like you.
Yeah,
right.
If they're not talking to you, that's when you got to worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I happened to look at this a while ago because I was looking at doing this a couple of times, and there was only 2 companies in the DC area who did this. This is years ago, and I just looked a minute ago, and they closed down. I don't know why. But there's only one company that does this now, and it looks like they have the entire DC and Baltimore area, at their whim if they wanted to. Do you see yourself scaling this? Do you see yourself staying in operations? What do you see the future of this for you? Obviously, you got to get it off the ground.
Yeah, I got to get it off the ground. We need to be experts at it. But I really plan on having the headache of trying to figure out buying a second vehicle by the end of the season, which I think we likely will. But we need someone to run it, and we got to start hiring those people now. I mean, if a high school kid for the summer will be great, but I can't pay him to run another vehicle next year. So we need to start figuring out who that's going to be. And my buddy Dylan's he's good at managing people as well. Ideally, I'd like to see him, and I think he feels the same way, in a year or two, maybe do more of the sales calls and managing the business itself. And I'd like to see myself working on systems in the overall scope of it, but removing myself as much as possible, to be honest. But that'll take years. I mean, that's not going to happen tomorrow, and it's probably not going to happen next year. So, just kind of, we got to build those systems, and we got to focus on that pipeline, I guess, and just not grind out day in and day out. I mean, we just got to figure out above and beyond. I mean, besides grinding, how are we building it so that we're not doing this.
So it sounds like you're getting pulled virtually 4 different ways. You have the family, you have the real estate, you have the fire department, and now you have Jackedup, the polyjacking. Do you see your bandwidth being stretched thin? Are you comfortable with where you're at? Are you going to focus on one more than the other? Like, what's the plan?
My bandwidth is very thin. I actually started using the term a little bit the other day. I feel like a couple of years ago, or if we're in the middle of a big flip towards the end, I mean, sometimes it gets to be a little stressful, but for the most part, 90% of the flips, I feel pretty good about. I mean, as long as they're going my way for the most part, and if they're not, I kind of whatever, we'll write it off and try again. But right now, it's hard. I mean, we're getting going. I want to do it right, and I don't want to be the contractor that I despise. Not getting back to people, not following up. So we got some growing pains we have to figure out, and we will figure it out. But my bandwidth's pretty thin right now.
So this is just quick numbers. If you do 6 months of the year and you do 5 days a week,
Yep.
hang on,
2,500 a day.
25. How much? What's your profit margins look like?
50%.
50%. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do 6 months times 30 days times 5 days a week.
I figure about 150 working days a year.
150 working days.
Yep.
So we'll say 150 working days, and your profit margin is $2,500. So this could potentially be a $375,000 net profit a year business.
Right, and I think we can do better. I know we can do better.
Not a bad side business.
So
not bad for 150 days,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Just move south and take us where you can operate more days.
So our place so we were in Port St. Joe a little while ago, and before we were even rolling with it, I told my business partner Dylan, like, I feel like we're gonna have to roll this thing down to Florida. There's plenty of concrete that's uneven here too. The hell with it. So.
I tell you, man, like the contractors I see in the DC area, like I don't see much polyjacking. I don't know why. I think it's a good tool to have in the toolbox, but I see a ton of grinding, especially because the cities are now getting sued for these trip hazards. Well, two things: trip hazards and potholes are getting sued for. Um, so like this, adding another tool to the trade, depending on where you are, like this could be a good. I don't want to say side hustle because this could be a primary company for somebody, but this is a good way to make some money. And it's just it's not talked about. Like mud jacking is kind of outdated. It's just not. It's very dirty. It's very expensive. It's labor intensive. Your equipment doesn't last as long. It sounds like polyjacking. The equipment is a little bit cheaper, lasts longer. The material that you have to order lasts longer. You have to order less because it's not a day by day order. So when you do concrete work, you have to order the material that day or the day before, a couple of days before to get it on site. But this stuff, it sounds like you can have the barrels in the barn and not have to tell the wife as long as she doesn't go back there. She's not
Right.
about it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of advantages to the poly. There's some disadvantages as well, but for the most part, I think this is a much better setup. And that talking to the guys at HMI, it used to be 10-to-1 poly or mud jacking to polyurethane setups, maybe early 2000s. So now it's the other way around. It's for every one mud jacking system they sell 10 polys. So, and usually those are just municipalities still buying mud jacking.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they don't know better yet because they haven't
Right.
evolved.
That's the way it's always been, right? So the
It seems like the governments are always like one step behind of the private market.
This is the way we've always done it.
Yeah. hate two things. I hate the way things are, and I hate change. So
yeah. So is there anything we missed in terms of your marketing, your real estate, your company that you want to touch on?
No, I think we covered most of it. For the most part, I had a good synopsis of what we're doing.
So if somebody wanted to look at your website, it's jackedupllc.com.
That's correct. Yep.
Now, how about your Facebook page? Do you have that set up?
We do. Yep. Just jacked up. Should be just jackeduppllc.com, I believe, or .com, but Jacked Up LLC. You searched us on Facebook.
Do you want people reaching out to you one way or the other?
Yeah, absolutely. If you got questions or concerns, or if anybody else is interested in doing this, I'd absolutely give them whatever good, bad information I can. If they want to ride along with me for a day, not a problem.
Now, how about when they sell you this product, do they give you a marketing area that you can work in? Like you own this 30 miles radius?
We do not. No. So they HMI is out of Manitowoc, which is a couple hours north of us. They also have a contracting arm of their business as well. Sorry, contractors walking through working on siding. Has a contracting arm of their business as well, but they've got like an hour radius around their location. They will come down this far south if they are doing a really big, they contract a school or maybe they've got some contract with McDonald's and stuff locally. But they're not going to come do a residential job 2 hours away. So they don't really have any restrictions on us when they sell us product. I mean, because they could restrict the product we buy, right? I mean, because we're in their wheelhouse, or if I had too far north, but no, they don't seem. I think it's their razor blade. They make a lot of money selling products, so I think
they don't want to step on your toes, step over.
No, I mean, so I think, and a lot of the trailers, I mean, they said that a lot of the things that they do, they've got a couple crews that run. Their internal sales guys need to work in the field for at least a year. And a lot of their changes and the developments, because they're a small company, have been, from what they've learned in the field. So I think their business model is more of just making sure that they're bringing a good tool to the street. So
what are you using to patch the holes when you're done? Like just a regular concrete
patch? Yeah. And ours are, I'm sure you've seen plenty of holes up by you as well. I mean, this is done everywhere. The 5/8 inch holes are much smaller and they're a lot easier to patch. If the inch and 5/8, those don't seem to hold up as well. The small holes are easy to patch.
Okay. I was going to say, we had this conversation with another contractor about, he wanted to use a dry patch, or not a dry patch, a pre-mix patch to fill something or other. And I was like, dude, just use Sika. Like, it's just just use Sika. It's literally just squeeze the fucking tube out and it patches the hole up and you can be done. And he's like, no, because If it moves, I'm like, exactly. If it moves, then you have a whatever. It's a whole contractor argument. Like 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Right.
All right. So let me ask you our final question before we wrap up, because we're on that hour mark. So if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, your 20-year-old self, your 15-year-old self, your 25-year-old self, what advice would that be?
I'd say mostly I used to, I think, worry too much about what other people thought. Not that I wasn't a go-getter and doing it, but I spent a lot of my time wondering if I was going to tick somebody off, but please everybody else. Where I guess as I'm getting older, I don't care. And life's a lot easier that way. You get a lot more done, you're a lot more efficient, and whatever. If people don't like it, they'll get over it. I'm over it at least. So
you're not gonna lose sleep at night because
somebody else. Not over that. There's plenty of other things to lose sleep over, but not what other people think.
I can tell you, being in a this is probably gonna piss some people off, but being in a liberal area, like you have to expect to piss somebody off because the people are far left or far right, and somebody's gonna get pissed off regardless. So I'm not gonna lose sleep over it either. I think it's a great mindset. Like you keep doing you because they're not paying your bills.
Right. Yeah.
So what's your motivation moving forward? I mean, you got your bandwidth to stretch, your capacity to stretch. Like, what's your motivation?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I know you guys kind of predetermined that one. I guess. I mean, I like to do things that it's not people have done. I mean, things that are hard. I mean, I guess I like being able to prove. I don't see anyone wrong. Just prove myself right. That fuck it, I can do this, and I'm going to figure it out. I guess so. And once I kind of dig in, it's one of those things where I got to see it through. I guess that's a real great motivation. But I like just the haters are always going to hate. I mean, if you see an opportunity to do it, I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and figure it out. I guess I enjoy kind of figuring it out on the way. I guess
that's one of the things I've seen in common. This is one thing we have in common. It's like us, all three of us, and then other people we've had is. If you're willing to be a doer, like you're going to see success. It's the ones who get stuck in spinning their wheels and not taking action. Like they're the ones who are not going to see success. It's the ones who are like, well, I'll try it and hopefully it doesn't fail and I won't lose my ass. Like those are the ones who see success. Or like, I'm going to make this work, even if it takes 14 hours a day. I'm going to make sure this thing gets to the finish line. And the doers are the ones who are going to get the fruits of their labor. I see that commonality between you, me, the guy we just had in the podcast earlier. A lot of people in the group is like, if you're willing to take effort and take action, then you are the one who's going to succeed and bear the fruits of the labor. And I love that kind of mindset because a lot of people just want to wait till things come to them, and it's not how the world works.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So if people want to reach out to you, they reach out through your website. You want to leave an email address?
Yeah, website. Otherwise, our Facebook, but my email address is just adam@jackedupllc.com. That'd be fine too.
Awesome. Adam, thanks for spending an hour with us. Guys, this is First Responder Financial Freedom with Tyler, Adam, and myself, Aaron, episode number 19.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.